We're on.
You want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You can't handle the truth!
Well, we're giving you the Michigan Sports Truth, the show that is honest, reveals the facts, truth, and statistics, and does not mess around. Follow me, Taylor Phillips, on Twitter at DT2Phillips. Email me at TaylorGatorPhillips14@yahoo.com. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter at EdSmith313, and go to our website at MichiganSportsTruth.com. Also like our Facebook page, The Michigan Sports Truth, and join our Facebook group with the same name. The Michigan Sports Truth podcast on Spreaker is also available on iHeartRadio and SoundCloud. Also a subsidiary of Sports Radio Detroit, thus available on iTunes and Podbean. This podcast is particularly not for entertainment purposes, and the views expressed by the host of this podcast are opinion-based. However, they do not come without facts, research, statistics, and truth, whether other people like it or not, and no matter how harsh or complicated it may be. This is the Michigan Sports Truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
Hey there, Michigan sports fanatics, and welcome to the Michigan Sports Truth episode 254 on Spreaker. I'm Taylor Phillips along with Ed Smith. How you doing, Ed?
Doing quite well, Taylor. Had a long night watching a lot of fights, but I'm good. I'm doing quite good. Thanks for asking.
All right, we got plenty to recap and not much to talk about except how the Red Wings fared during the trade deadline and how the center field spot for the Detroit Tigers is looking at this moment in spring training. But we'll get to the Pistons as well. But first, let's talk about some college sports and dive right into Michigan football.
Touchdown, Michigan!
Former Wolverine cornerback and safety Jabrill Peppers reportedly will work with linebackers and defensive backs at the NFL Combine. There's been a lot of talk that Jabrill Peppers, that a lot of NFL teams don't know where to play Jabrill Peppers because he was an all-purpose player for the Michigan Wolverines. He played defensively, offensively, and even on special teams. He's a speedster and a machine. And I would think, of course, any NFL team would take him, but
I think any team would take him. They'd be more than happy to have a player with his versatility and talent on their roster. The problem would be, Taylor, like you said, is what spot would they put him? Because if you want to be honest, in terms of his information about his weight and height stacks up, he's actually listed as just a shade under 5'11". So with him, and you look at his body, he's probably maybe 195 at most. Not exactly a big player that you can probably put side by side to guard, not guard, but cover like a wideout, for most of the game. He's probably a little bit too small to be a safety in coverage anyways. So I'm thinking mainly due to his size, and he's got speed, he's got versatility. Try experiment with him, with primarily or secondary as a return specialist, with some occasional trick plays thrown in be a good quality, you know, if you want to do a comparison, maybe close to Randall Cobb or Darryl Sproles in the NFL is, as to what kind of role Peppers could play in a more offensive manner and a more offensive role on a team. So those will probably be good two comparison models for him. Now, again, I think that would be much better for him because, like I said, he wasn't exactly known for making too many plays defensively. He only had one interception in his career, which was, of course, his last game against Ohio State. So I would think it would be much better to utilize his talents from especially in an offense standpoint, and also to risk him possibly not getting hurt if he were to play on the defense when you know there's guys with bigger bodies than him that could overpower him or any other similar situation as to that.
So the NFL draft is sometime in April. I believe April 25th, isn't it?
Last I checked, it was April, unless they switched it to May again this year. But last I checked, it's still in April.
Oh, okay. Well, at any rate, just wanted to check in on what Jabrill Peppers has been up to. Speaking of the Wolverines, though,
For three, yes, sir.
They pulled an upset over the 14th-ranked Purdue Boilermakers last week Saturday, 82-70, and then they lost on a Hail Mary layup, 67-65 at the Northwestern Wildcats. And let's see here. ESPN.com has this information.
Basically, if you want to know the gist of what happened, especially at the tail end of that game, Derek Walton apparently committed a free throw violation, and also Michigan's last possession of that game, Zach Irvin, my goodness, just really, really showing how capable he has been to the team this year. Does not milk out the clock. Instead, decides to take a contested deep ball three, essentially as close to a hero ball shot as you'll ever see. Of course, comes up way short, which gave Northwestern the time it needed to draw out that play. Now, I will give them credit for saying, hey, an absolute, unbelievable, perfect pass that was pulled off with great execution. But my question is, unless it was a good screen or they got mixed up, how in the hell is DJ Wilson not being allowed, on the back end of that play, to play the defense as they try to throw towards the paint? And so instead you have Derek Walton, a guy who is 6'1", guarding this player near the rim who is 6'8". You know who's going to have the advantage there. So why in the hell did you not have DJ Wilson in the back and Derek Walton in the front? Obviously, if you switch those two players around, it's not such an easy lay-in at the hoop for Northwestern at the end. Go to overtime, you can show them some priorities here. But between that, it was just those three errors in a row. It's what fueled Michigan State in that game. Horrible loss, and a great win for Northwestern because it all but seals their first ever spot in the Big Ten. So that win was the clincher for them, essentially. You could probably say the same thing for Michigan as well with their win against Purdue. I mean, they didn't let Caleb Swanigan, their big star forward, go off. He only had 18 points and 11 shooting. Boyd Wagner showcasing his own versatility was in it during the biscuit in a bit, nailing deep shots and eventually ending with 24 points and 10 and 15 shooting. You saw, again, Wagner showing being a great offensive input as well in the Northwest game. Just, again, those horrible miscues, one after another at the end of the game, that was really what the difference they have to focus all their intention of beating Nebraska in their final game, which will be later today, but also making sure that they have a good enough showing the Big Ten tournament where there's, again, I think no matter what, that the Purdue win sealed it for them in terms of getting in, especially in terms of resume, but the other teams that they have beaten on their schedule this year, some of the teams like the SMU, Michigan State, and Wisconsin, they have, I believe, their worst margin of defeat this year, but those specific teams I've just listed were to the Wolverines, so that helped them. That helped Michigan out in terms of the resume to the committee and whatnot, to possibly for a spot determination. But again, there's still room to determine what seed they will get, and it will be determined on how they finish here in the last regular season game against Nebraska, but also in the Big Ten Conference tournament as well. They have a good enough showing. They have better chances of getting a higher seed, obviously.
They play at Nebraska tomorrow night at 8 o'clock on BTN. The Cornhuskers, that's on a Sunday night. So tune in, folks. The Michigan State Spartans.
Touchdown! Valentine for the win!
They also pulled an upset Sunday night at home against the 16th ranked Wisconsin Badgers, 84-74. And then they went into Illinois and lost by 3, 73-70. They were down by as many as about double digits, or 9 at least, if not double digits. They came back, but in the end of the game, with 3 or 4 seconds left, one of the Illinois players missed the free throw and made the second, and then the Spartans called their final timeout. Tom Izzo made a play call, and they got the ball to Tum Tum Nairn Jr., who shot a 3 and missed miserably because Tum Tum Nairn Jr. sucks. Tom Izzo made a mental mistake on that one.
At this point, there seems to be like a race as to who can be the worst, most unclutch shooter/player for their respective team, Zach Irvin or Tum Tum Nairn.
Yeah, I'd rather pick anybody over Tum Tum Nairn Jr. because he can't score. He can't do diddly squat on the court. Then they lost to the Maryland Terrapins 63-60. So that wraps up their regular season.
Yeah, it was after a late triple by Melo Trimble that gave Maryland the 3-point victory.
That was from NBA range, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a big time 3-pointer. Hit it with about 1 seconds left, and that was all she does. A bad end for Michigan State as they lose their last 2 games. After a great win against Wisconsin, they stumble by losing their last 2 games in a row. Both of those on the road. Coming in, they were still one of those bubble teams with some work to do. You have to imagine, even though that they finished with a better, that's still to be determined because Michigan still plays Nebraska today. So at the moment, they currently have a better conference record than Michigan at 10-8, but they could easily be tied with the Wolverines if Michigan beats Nebraska. And not only that, Michigan will have the better overall record. MSU 18-13. Michigan currently as it stands with 19 wins. So that alone would get Michigan into the tournament. So that would explain why MSU was seen as one of these bubble teams with work still left to do. I'm of the belief that all they need is probably a win or 2, especially since I believe they could be in a good enough bracket to where might have shifted in recent hours or so because of this, especially because of this loss to Maryland. But MSU, in my opinion, for them to be safe to make the tournament, they would have to, A, not lose in the opening round, in their opening round matchup, or whoever they face first in the Big Ten tournament, and B, probably get to the quarter, if not semifinals, to really secure their spot. Michigan, they're in, even though their stock has hurt a little bit since the loss to Northwestern, especially. But if they can rebound nicely, beat Nebraska, and win one or two games in the Big Ten Conference tournament, not only they'll be in, they're going to have a good shot at a higher seed. MSU, on the other hand, they need to be coming into this tournament with the focus of, wow, everything's on the line for them, because in my opinion, it is.
Yes, there's always the Big Ten tournament. We'll see how Michigan and Michigan State fare. We hope they reach both the quarterfinals and then the semifinals. They've got to step up their game. So my Central Michigan Chippewas kept getting pounded. 87-66 at the Toledo Rockets, and then at home, 109-81 to the Eastern Michigan Eagles. Then they go into Western Michigan and play the Broncos and lose only by 8 points, 88-80 in Kalamazoo, because it's a rivalry game. CMU goes into the MAC tournament playing Kent State in the first round of the MAC tournament in Cleveland, Ohio, at Quicken Loans Arena. I don't like CMU's chances of winning that one. They're done, but if they could play as good as they played against the Western Michigan Broncos in Kalamazoo this past Friday night, I think they'll make it a close game if they don't pull it out. Also, the Western Michigan Broncos, who have been red hot, especially against the Mid-American Conference, they play the Miami, Ohio Redhawks, and the Eastern Michigan Eagles play the Northern Illinois Huskies. All these three games in the first round, NIU and EMU at 7 o'clock, CMU and Kent State, and Miami, Ohio and Western, both games to be determined. So, that's enough college basketball. Now, I want to, spread the news to our audience here, my Chippewa audience especially, that former athletic director of CMU, Dave Hickey, accepted the athletic director position at the Arizona Wildcats. So the Chippewas have yet to find a new athletic director. So best of luck, Dave Hickey, but his football program and basketball program have gotten nowhere as of late. They haven't gotten worse, but you know what? They're still staying at mediocrity, and that's been going on for too long. So, with that being said, it's now time for us to switch from college basketball to pro basketball.
Left sideline three, and he answers.
Pistons, a loss, and win. They lose another one at home to the Boston Celtics, and then they beat the Portland Trailblazers 120-113 in overtime.
thanks to a career night from Marcus Morris Thursday. For him,
Yep.
loss on the Celtics due mostly to the fact because they were up one about a minute ago. Reggie Jackson, oh my goodness. Speaking of horrible shots here, Reggie Jackson decides, I guess, on no passes, no pick and roll, just a straight-on, dead-on shot from the top of the key, way out of his reach, way out of his range. Chucks up a shot, chucks up a three, a long-distance three. Of course, did not go, and Boston was able to capitalize on that, take the lead from then on out, and will not relinquish it. So you can pinpoint the Pistons losing focus and losing their grip on that game based on that horrible decision-making by Reggie Jackson. I don't know what is going on with him even more, or why stuff like this keeps happening. But if it does keep happening, you might have to find an avenue of sorts to find a way to either trade him or whatever the case may be, because I feel uneasy about this team's chemistry and development due to I'll just come outright and say it. I don't trust Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond. We'll get to Drummond a little bit more on, but it seems like my chief problems with the Pistons' development this year has been due mainly revolved around its starting point guard and its star center, both by the way that they need to depend upon as to help lead their franchise going forward, especially with all the amount of money that they're paying them for Christ's sake, especially Drummond. So far, we've seen a very disappointing season from both guys. You don't know if they have the mental capacity to be a leader or leaders for this team. B, you don't know if it have their own mental fortitude to maintain a consistency to where even if they may have an off night in one area, it doesn't. They tried their best to not let it affect their overall game, which in turn could either be a great thing or a bad thing to team chemistry. So we'll get to Drummond a little bit on later, like I said, but it's the way this keeps up. Even if they make the playoffs this year, I would not feel entirely too happy if this is the way this team currently is stretched. Unless I see a dramatic turnaround, I would probably prefer to see some type of move being made in the offseason. I don't know how, especially with the contract that Drummond has, but a movement of sort will probably happen in the offseason, in my opinion, if I were to feel better about the Pistons' chances of becoming a good quality perennial contender from this point on.
And let's get to Andre Drummond real quick. In the 109-86 loss to the New Orleans Pelicans in the Commodity Bank Center in New Orleans, Andre Drummond picks up a double-double, and then he gets ejected for swatting the back of point guard Tim Frazier's head.
Are you out of your mind?
And that opened the door for the Pelicans to put the beat down on the Pistons in that fourth quarter, 30-15. Because of Drummond's ejection, that's pretty much the self-destruction trigger puller right there for this Pistons team in that game. Because once your best player gets into a lot of trouble because of the mental midget that he is, Andre Drummond, Yeah, Mike Oxlong just commented, trade Drummond. I agree with him. The Pistons should not have stood pat.
Well, I think it comes down to what teams were willing to buy Drummond, and if so, would they even, the return, I think, of his caliber would have probably been too much for some teams. That's why they decided to stand pat on their own and not even try to attempt a deal with the Pistons, because I think they felt they would have been giving away too much just to get Drummond, in my opinion. So maybe they could try again in the off season. We'll see. But again, between this, it's just another glaring example of maybe, Andre Drummond's just not ready to be seen as a leader for a young team that's trying to be take that next step forward to be a possible contender.
I have to agree, especially when Andre Drummond throws fits like this and gets into trouble, which is which could lead to a suspension for hitting the back of the head of point guard Tim Frazier. That's one of our 5 questions tonight. And then they overcooked the Philadelphia 76ers at Wachovia Center 136-106. As I take a look at that box score, man, oh man. Marcus Morris, 22 points. Andre Drummond, 14 and 14, another double-double at plus 29. Morris at plus 36. KCP, 26 and a plus 35. Reggie Jackson, a 21-point performance. Tobias Harris, 20 points off the bench. John Laura with only 6. Ish Smith, 11 and a plus 22. Harris with a plus 19. Aaron Baines, 7 points. Still doesn't score too often anyway, but a plus 3. Only 2 rebounds. Didn't do much there, but 5 points better than Stanley Johnson and Reggie Bullock each. Boban Marjanovic scored 5 points, 2 of 3 shooting. Didn't get a rebound, but he was a plus 3 as well. Everybody played, including Boban Marjanovic. But this was a game the Pistons were supposed to win, and they did with authority.
Absolutely, especially the fact that Philadelphia recently lost Joel Embiid to another injury. His recovery is indefinite at the moment. So this is already a weakened group already going in. So the Pistons are able to take advantage of it, especially with the lack of Embiid. Probably would have made things better for them to go to the paint more. Philly put up a good fight, good effort, but former Wolverine Nick Stauskas had a hell of a game, 10 of 15 shooting and with 24 points. But again, the combined effort of the Pistons starters and everybody else just getting their own turn in offensively was just way too much for Philly to overcome.
Yep, and now the Pistons are 30 and 32. And they're still in 8th place in the Eastern Conference.
They have a good bit of space between themselves and the 9th spot. I think there's about a game or so ahead of.
A game and a half.
Yeah, a game and a half ahead of the team that's chasing them. So they have a little bit of wiggle room, but I wouldn't advise them to try that. I think they need to be playing with a mental standpoint of every game matters, every game counts, because there's, about 20 games left for them now in the regular season. So it's definitely as close to go time as you can possibly get, especially now with the trade deadline being passed. So if they want to be, they want to stand pat and deal with the roster they have now, well, this is what they got to deal with.
Mm-hmm. So the Pistons head back home to play the Chicago Bulls Monday at 7:30. They play the Indiana Pacers Wednesday at 8 on ESPN at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. The Bulls, the Pistons are trying to catch the Bulls and the Pacers. The Bulls 7th place, 31-31. The Pacers 31-30. Pistons a game back of the Bulls, a game and a half back of the Pacers. This is a step-by-step take. The Pistons can have a chance to tie the Chicago Bulls if, depending on how they did against the Clippers, did the Bulls. They lost 101-91 at United Center to those Clippers. and the Indiana Pacers, I believe, play on in Atlanta against the Hawks at 1 p.m. Eastern. They're at 31-30. I believe that's going to be televised on either ABC or something like that. We'll have to keep an eye on those either one way or another.
Yeah, you mentioned the Pacer games and the bowl games coming up, so those are the teams that definitely do have to catch. So I've said before, if they were to finish the season with a 6 seed or higher, I would feel much more confident of them at least winning a playoff game, let alone a playoff series. Because if they finish 7 or 8, especially if they finish 8, they got no chance in hell, in my opinion.
Right. And then they host the Cleveland Cavaliers Thursday at 7:30. Cavaliers set a new record, hitting 25 three-pointers against the Hawks just a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I happened to catch this game last night or so. This is a team that I think I've noticed, I guess you could say, just about every game that I've watched that LeBron was playing, he's hit at least 2 or 3 jump shots, yet his free throw percentage has gone down. He's made a trade-off, I guess you could say, sacrificed some of his free throw game to improve his jump shot. I believe he's on pace to have his best year three-point shooting percentage-wise in a season for his career. So, again, a new weapon of versatility added to the already lengthy arsenal of the best player in the world, LeBron James. And when you, factor in, they have all this help around them, Kyle Korver, Kyrie Irving, Tristan Thompson, et cetera, and yet they're currently without J.R. Smith and Kevin Love due to injury. If they get those 2 players back 100% in time for playoffs, when you consider what Golden State's going through right now with Kevin Durant, you can take his time off with his knee injury. Things will be looking quite favorable for Cleveland. You could say for them to possibly repeat. Now, I think they would still have to play a hell of a tough team to come from the West, probably between San Antonio and Golden State. So I'm nowhere near writing them off as, they could write it down, book it, they're going to repeat. But they've looked as hot as any other team in recent games and recent days. So things are definitely trending up for them. And as a team, I would avoid playing in the first round at all costs if you didn't want to get swept. That's why I'm hoping beyond hope that the Pistons find a way to get at least to the 7th seed. I would still think they lose easily to the Boston Celtics in that series, but I feel more comfortable about them getting at least to win a game as opposed to them being the 8th seed and getting swept again for the second year in a row by LeBron and the Cavs.
Cavaliers, the defending NBA champions, at 42-19, first place in the Eastern Conference, right where they need to be. Pistons can't wait to take on those Cavaliers in another marquee game Thursday at 7:30. Now the Red Wings here. Let's recap their trades before they play their games. They traded Brendan Smith to the New York Rangers, Steve Ott to the Montreal Canadiens, and Thomas Vanek to the Florida Panthers for 2 more 2017 third-round picks. Last week, 2 Fridays ago, they traded Tomas Jurko to the Chicago Blackhawks for a 2017 third-round pick. So that makes 3 2017 third-round picks, plus another 2018 second-rounder in the Smith trade, and a 2018 sixth-rounder, and a defenseman, Dylan McIlrath, in the Vanek trade, the 2018 sixth-rounder in the Ott trade. But the Red Wings trade Vanek to the Panthers for McElrath and another third round pick for this year. Ken Holland was selling, but just pushing kind of the wrong buttons once again because he doesn't know how to sell professionally as a general manager. He's lost his touch.
It wasn't a full-blown fire sale, as some might have hoped.
No.
I think some of the reason that they played it into that, I think by Holland, if you look and pay attention to Holland's own words, he said in his own opinion that a rebuild for a team would take, 10 to 15 years to complete, some idiotic shit like that. Yeah, if the way you handle it by not doing what's best with your young players, letting players at their peak prime that can still contribute, walk away from you from absolutely nothing, i.e., or trading them away for absolutely nothing, and also signing veterans, washed-up veterans past their prime who are shells of themselves. When you factor that in, it probably would take about 10 to 15 minutes to either reload, rebuild, or in your case, crumple an entire hockey franchise. So, again, another reason why Ken Holland really needs to go as quickly as possible.
He needs to either resign or get his sorry ass fired. Besides, who the fuck is Dylan McElrath, the defenseman that the Red Wings got? I've never even heard of him. I've been hearing that Dylan McElrath is not that good.
McElrath sounds like a distant cousin of the McCaffrey family. It's a good start in terms of, hey, this team is nowhere near a contender. Why, so he wasn't going for all out buy-in mode. But it wasn't entirely the whole make you feel entirely too confident for what they were going to get because, when's the last time they really did a good job on a 6th round pick or so? I think one notable example, that was Datsuk, and that was it. Zetterberg might have been a 7th round pick or something like that, but that's it. Those are only 2 notable exceptions. So you're not always going to find. It's not always going to be a Tom Brady situation or a Dak Prescott situation every year where you can find a gem in the diamond of the rough in the NHL draft. No, your best chance would be as early as often. Finding guys like Datsuk that later round, that's a once in a blue moon type of rarity that they got lucky with in a way. I doubt Lighting would strike twice in that sense. For the Wings in this situation in modern players in this new modern NHL.
Mm-hmm. So the Red Wings, during that Steve Ott trade, they beat the Vancouver Canucks in overtime 3-2 at Rogers Arena. Then they tied it late in regulation with 1.8 seconds left in overtime. Tomas Tatar in Calgary, and they lose to the Flames 3-2 at Scotiabank Saddledome on a Friday night, and then this past Saturday, 4-3 loss in regulation to the Edmonton Oilers at Rogers Place. Used to be called Rexall Place. So there's Rogers Arena and Rogers Place. It's kind of weird. That the Oilers should have kept their arena named Rexall Place, in my opinion, because Rogers Arena and Rogers Place kind of seem confusing now. But anyway, the Red Wings still standing as the 5th worst team in the NHL at 25-27-11, 61 points. Just 3 less regulation losses than the Vancouver Canucks have, 27-30-7. The Carolina Hurricanes have dropped to 3rd worst in the NHL at 25-26-10 at 60 points. The Dallas Stars have leapfrogged the Hurricanes and the Canucks and the Red Wings. The Stars have 62 points at 26-29-10. But of course, is the Arizona Coyotes and the Colorado Avalanche. The NHL league standings will tell you that. So the Red Wings go to the Toronto Maple Leafs Tuesday at 7:30 at Air Canada Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And then on Wednesday at 8, the night after that on NBCSN's Wednesday Night Rivalry, the Red Wings are at the Boston Bruins, 12th best in the NHL. The Leafs, 16th best. Back to the Oilers game. Gustav Nyquist returned from his injury, and he didn't even score a goal or pick him an assist. This is an example of why Gustav Nyquist has regressed this season.
Well, to be fair, I think it'll be a little bit out of the ordinary to expect a lot immediately on his first game back, especially if he was returning from an injury. Some players, if they haven't had to be on that night, that's great. But usually, you don't expect players coming back from an injury to immediately go full throttle, balls to the wall to try to make some production. No, they're going to be a little attentive, take it safe. They'll let the plays come to them. If it happens, it happens. If not, it not. So, while granted, Nyquist has not been has been as great as good as he has been in recent years, I wouldn't hold this against him. He's just coming back from an injury. I would give him time to get himself reacquainted with his ice time and whatnot.
Well, what it says here on Gustav Nyquist's bio on DetroitRedWings.com, 7 goals, 22 assists, but 7 goals and a -4 for Gustav Nyquist, 14 penalty minutes, only 1 power play goal, 4 power play points.
Again, not disagreeing with you that his offensive production needs to pick up. It does, but if you've not paid attention to this whole team this year, there's a lot of shit that needs to pick up.
That's true. Yeah, that's a lot worse than this. And then finally coming up, they're home against the Chicago Blackhawks Friday at 7:30.
So you see Babs again. Hopefully you follow up by 2 ass poundings from the Bruins and Hawks respectively.
The Bruins and the Blackhawks. Visit Mike Babcock in his new home, the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is his second season actually as the Toronto Maple Leafs head coach after leaving Detroit. So some were disagreeing that some fans were disagreeing that Ken Holland should resign, but I think they think that he's done a good job with his 25 year playoff appearance streak. Again, the fans don't get it. Here's why Ken Holland should go. Granted, they have made it to the playoffs 25 seasons in a row, but since 2009, again, they have not been able to reach a conference final. In the last 5 years, they've been eliminated in the first round 4 times. 3 of those first round eliminations, which have finished in 5 games. And now, this season, the Red Wings chances of making the playoffs a 26th consecutive time have all but vanished. They still don't. I don't think they have a shot. I still don't think they have a shot at making the playoffs.
No,
the Red Wings.
They don't, and they probably shouldn't. Especially if they try to go on a late season win string and fuck up their chances for a high draft pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, I'm looking at the Red Wings here, and the Red Wings are looking at a 6th overall draft pick, considering the Las Vegas Golden Knights will have the 3rd overall draft pick in the 2017 NHL Draft.
Six is nice. I wouldn't mind a little bit higher, but if they get on that fringe, just on the outside, looking on the top 5, I wouldn't be too upset with that.
The best the Red Wings can reach is a 4th overall pick by finishing 3rd worst in the NHL. So I guess that's what we're hoping for. We'll see what happens down the road. So now we have the Tigers left.
That one is long gone.
It's been noted that center fielder Tyler Collins is now out 10 to 14 days with a strained lateral muscle, which leaves Anthony Ghost, Jacoby Jones, and Mikey Matuk left in the race for center field spots for the 2 center field spots in the major league level with the Tigers. Mikey Matuk is batting triple zeros this spring. David Lowe, the Tigers just recently signed him. He's at triple zeros in batting average and triple zeros in his OPS this spring. They don't count, but they still matter. Anthony Ghost, 222 is last I checked. Jacoby Jones, 333 the last I checked. I think we're looking, right now, as far as I'm concerned, we're looking at Anthony Ghost and Jacoby Jones claiming those 2 center fielder spots. Jacoby Jones, an odd very shot at getting the number 1 center field spot as of right now.
You have to wonder if, with Collins getting hurt, that pardon the pun, hurt his chances to maybe, if not win the starting job, but at least win the backup center field spot. Or maybe there's a plan going all along that no matter what, it's just going to be a revolving platoon. That's still, that is still yet to be seen. But either way, horrible timing for Collins to suffer this injury, right on the cusp of the team trying to make this decision. So that effectively, in my opinion, probably takes him out of the running for the starting spot. So it's. I'd be happy. I feel happy for Jacoby Jones because it shows that the young man will get a chance to prove himself. Wouldn't expect too much of the young man, but hey, he's got a chance. We'll see him make the most of it. Ghost, I do not like for obvious reasons. I think he's a very subpar defensive player, and his stance on analytics is very not forward thinking, not as progressive as I would hope for it to be. So, despite my own, personal feelings on the matter, I just got to deal with the fact that he is on this team for better or for worse. And Matuk just got here, so you wouldn't expect him to immediately, take a shining to or take great attention to the detail of how things work around here. So I would expect some time for him to get his footing in. So between the Collins injury, you're probably not too often thinking those are the 2 top contenders, either for that spot and or the backup spot, Ghost and Jones, respectively.
Tigers. Speaking of the Tigers, they've been in a slump after beating the Astros 11-4 and beating the Braves 10-7. They lost to the Yankees twice, 9-5 and then 11-1 this past Saturday. They lost to the Rays 5-2. They got crushed by the Pirates 11-1, and earlier they got beaten down by the Washington Nationals 9-1. You could probably tell that this may be a long regular season for the Tigers.
Maybe, but it's spring training. Like, really, has really spring training been an indicator of what's going to happen long term in the season and whatnot? Like, no, because you might have the slow starts, but May or June, Miggy always comes a fire. You probably expect Verlander to have his stuff together, especially how he finished last season on a strong foot. Michael Fulmer's the reigning Rookie of the Year. Hopefully you have a much healthier Victor Martinez when you factor in how long he was hurt last season, and dumbass Brad Ausmus didn't sit him. So I'm not really too concerned of how the teams are maybe looking at spring training. It's like saying, if you want to do the opposite effect, you were thinking the Lions were going to go somewhere in 2008 after they finished 4-0 in the preseason, and then what happened? Exactly, they went 0-16. So you can't really use early games that do not matter, do not count at all, as in my opinion, as a parameter for how the whole season will go. Because we haven't seen them play anything yet. There's no meaningful games that have been played at all, and there's still a long season ahead where anybody can catch hot, catch fired, and go on a slump. Anything can happen in each season. So I'm not too worried about what the team may go. Besides, Verlander himself said it, and mind you, he got roughed up a little bit by Pittsburgh the other day. Even he said, I would rather have.
And Brad Ausmus thought Mike Pelfrey was actually doing fine in that rout against the Pittsburgh Pirates, in which he got beaten the hell out of.
We know Ausmus is an idiot, so statements like that they don't really surprise me anymore. But on the topic of Verlander, he said, I'd rather have outings like that because it lets you know, hey, there's still stuff I need to work on. I'd rather be that than everything going perfect, willy-nilly in spring training, which will probably leave me feeling, everything's fine, and then once you get shellacked in the regular season. So I'd rather you go through whatever minor tinkering or adjustments you need to go through, get it done in spring training, so you have a productive start to your regular season as best as possible.
We'll see what happens. But truthfully, I just don't have enough faith in the Tigers that they can even win a fucking playoff game with Brad Ausmus as their manager, even if they were healthy. Still got those mediocre players, Mike Pelfrey, Anibal Sanchez, Tyler Collins. They're pathetic. Plus, you got the high-talented players like Verlander, Cabrera, Victor Martinez, J.D. Martinez still on the team, and whatnot. Ian Kinsler, he's good. Jose Iglesias, Alex Avila being back.
Right, the good, really.
Nick Castellanos.
Some of the bad here. Don't get me wrong, there's still some bad, the obvious bad being Ausmus, but there's a lot of good that can still be used to great effect on the team, especially when you consider that, whether it be a change of heart or whatever, they didn't go through completely blowing up and ripping apart the team yet. So Chris Ellis isn't as hated by the fans yet. So there's still some room to say you can probably make a move or two. You can probably be as good of a team this year as you were last year with some minor adjustments.
Yep, Tigers start their regular season April 5th. Mark your calendars, folks. So, if you don't have anything else to say, we can start 5 questions right now.
Ready when you are, Taylor. Just go ahead and let them rip.
Next question.
It's time for 5 questions on the Michigan Sports Truth.
Question number 1, where does the loss to the Northwestern Wildcats take the Michigan Wolverines?
It puts them on the spot where they'll still get into the tournament, but they'll probably be closer to that 10th seed that I mentioned a few episodes back of where they're currently projected to end up as. It would not surprise me if they probably end up as, they can range from, depending on how they go in this conference tournament, they'll range from an 8th seed to an 11th seed, in my opinion. Just put them more towards the lower end of that projection. But either way, they're still making a tournament regardless.
Next question.
That Purdue win really did help. Mm-hmm. Thank God.
Yep. Question number 2, are the Michigan State Spartans' chances of reaching the big dance shrinking?
Quite so, and it will be on life support, in my opinion, if they lost their first game in the conference tournament. They would be put them on that thin balancing wire of in or out, looking out, looking in, will the bubble be burst? So, again, I mentioned before, Michigan State, they're going to be coming in, they should be coming in with the mindset of our season is on the line every single game. We cannot take any of these games for granted. We've got to play some of our best ball that we've done all year. We got to save it for this stretch coming up, because if we have one bad outing and we lose early, we may miss the tournament and might have to go to NIT or whatever. So, I feel more concerned for Michigan State's status than I would be feeling for Michigan at this point.
Next question.
Question number 3, should Andre Drummond have been suspended for hitting New Orleans Pelicans point guard Tim Frazier in the back of the head? If so, how many games?
Suspension, no. I think, in my opinion, though, considering that it was reviewed, determined and ruled to be a flagrant 2 and thus an automatic ejection, I think it should suspect him, leave him up to a susceptible fine at the very least. He didn't punch him, he just shoved him, but still, conduct like that is absolutely unnecessary, unethical, and just flat out unacceptable in any sense whatsoever.
The report said he swatted him in the back of the head. He didn't just...
I looked at the play, so he definitely was a shoving motion with reckless intent, but it wasn't like too nefarious in my opinion. But still, the right call was made. He should have been ejected. He was. I wouldn't suspend him, but I would definitely fine him. In my opinion, if I was the commissioner, I would fine him for that.
Yep. Fair enough.
Next question.
Question number 4. How do you grade Red Wings general manager Ken Holland's trades? I'd give him like a D-, if not an E.
No, I would say C- because you got some draft picks back. C- because you got a couple of third rounders or so, but also Steve Ott was traded. For all the hubbub and talk of some of the beat writers saying how valuable Steve Ott is, guess what we got in return for him? A fucking 6th-round draft pick. Yeah, real valuable commodity you got there. Anyway, so based on that alone, and as well as a couple other things, I would say, they didn't go full-blown fire sale, so I can't give them a higher grade, but they got something back for some of the players they gave up. So I wouldn't say this is an abject failure all around. So I'll say a C-.
I guess that's fair enough. The Red Wings needed to get rid of Steve Ott once and for all.
Not.
That one is long gone.
It's time for 5 questions on the Michigan Sports Truth.
Next question.
Question number 5. Does Tyler Collins still get a center field spot for the Tigers this season despite his injury? Are there any excuses that general manager Al Avila might make?
I think eventually, especially when he recovers from his injury, a little bit, but after a while, he gets called up and most likely be used as part of the platoon between Ghost and Jones and Martin Matuk as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Collins gets some time up here as part of the platoon in the near future. Because that's what the center fielder, that's what it's just looking like for me at the moment for the center fielder situation with Detroit.
That's our 5 questions segment for all the listeners and fans out there. If you want to answer those questions, just replay the episode and answer them in the comment bank below this episode. That wraps up episode 254 of Spreaker's feed of the Michigan Sports Truth. Ed, I'll talk to you again next weekend on episode 255, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to it. We'll be able to break down how Michigan State closed out the regular season, what they need to do for real, what would have done so far if they weren't eliminated already from the Big Ten Conference tournament. More Tigers spring training, Red Wings, Pistons, all that jazz. So
whatever else comes up. Yeah, still no news. Still no new news on Larry Nassar as of yet. Wonder what the fuck his punishment is going to be as of late.
So we'll keep you updated on all that, including that news story as
Mm-hmm. So, excellent job as always, Ed.
You too, Taylor.
Yep. And before we sign off, we want to remind everyone to share this episode and our entire podcast on social media. Have their friends share that as well. And follow me on Spreaker as Taylor Phillips, online at Spreaker.com, because I want to tell them that the Michigan Sports Truth podcast is in search of local advertising sponsors. If anyone has a business that's interested in sponsoring this program, you can follow Sports Radio Detroit on Twitter at Sports Radio DET and send them a direct message or email them at sportsradiodetroit.com in the contact section. Also email the founder of Sports Radio Detroit, Roger Castillo, at rajcast81@gmail.com. Also like their Facebook page and join their Facebook group. And finally, find their podcasts available on iTunes and Podbean. For Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. Follow us on Twitter at DT2Phillips and Ed Smith and at EdSmith313. And like our Facebook page, The Michigan Sports Truth, and join our Facebook group with the same name. We apologize for any technical difficulties, but thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.